Welcome tonight to August 8th, 2023 Brigham City Council meeting. I'm Mary. And, just gonna call this meeting to order and we'll ask for an invitation. Please bow your head. Lord, thank you for all you do for us today. Please, for your blessings on the council and to move forward as well. Citizens of the city. And keep us safe in our travels. And we have to see and all things that we do. We should be in contact with our parents on their day. And for all you do. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I've been trying to do at the beginning of the meeting rather than at the end of the meeting, and send out the different events that are coming up.
Check your mic.
Sorry. So one of the things that I do that I've been trying to do at the beginning of the meeting rather than the end of the meeting is announce the events that are coming up. Alamance Adventure Race will be September 30th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Movies in the Park at Bill Cook Park will be August the 8th. There's a vendor and food truck expo on August the 7th, which will be at, where's that at? It's not downtown this time. It's,
Recreation Center, but the date is not.
hey, what is the date?
Seventh was yesterday, so we missed it.
Well, that's the date that's on the website.
Okay, off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's sometime at the end of August. So probably the last Saturday in August.
Okay, so you'll get that corrected off the website. Thank you. All right, and then, still doing paddle tours?
Yes.
Okay, still have paddle tours on the lake. They are extremely popular. We have a pontoon boat that takes you and your family out and enjoy a nice day on the lake. Get you a little tour. Steve has a lot to say about the lake. We also have the Balloon Festival, sponsored by Alco Vets, local veterans organization that helps our local veterans here in Alamance County. That balloon festival will be September the 8th, 9th, and 10th at Cedar Rock Park. And then also Graham is going to be doing a 5K race here in downtown Graham, which was very, very popular. If you know of any runners, please get them to sign up. And I believe all the fundraising from that 5K race benefits
Children of Fallen.
Children of Fallen Heroes. Yes. So
Mayor, Emma just looked up the dates. It looks like the dates. It looks like the dates you referenced for the food truck and vendor and also movies in the park were the dates that it was posted.
oh, okay, sorry.
So the movies in the park are the last Saturday or the Saturdays in September.
Let's see.
Vendors and food truck is at the Graham Recreation Center on August 26th.
Okay. And so check out Graham Rec's page. They've got lots of different events coming up. And I know that the Alco Vets Balloon Festival, the money that they're raising for that is to go to build a retreat center up on Snow Camp on Bass Mountain. So I think they've done quite a bit of work there.
And our headline band for Saturday night is Bucky Covington. He'll play from 6 to 8 o'clock Saturday night.
So please invite everyone to come out. Be a good time. We're going to come back to, So no, we're not going to come back. We're going to recognize our Recreational and Parks Department retiree, Vicky Braniff. And if you'll please come forward, ma'am. I'll be here so people can hear me. Then we'll come down. Vicky Braniff diligently served the city of Graham from May 5th, 2003 until May 31st, 2023. And whereas Vicky retired as the center supervisor with the City of Graham Recreation and Parks Department on May 31st, 2023 with 20 years of service. And whereas Vicky served as an event coordinator for senior games on the local and state levels, she led event clinics for the Alamance Burlington Senior Games and advocated for facility improvements such as a new gym floor and HVAC at the Graham Rec Center Gymnasium. And whereas Vicky always ensured the city's recreational centers were well maintained and available for programs, events, and private rentals. And whereas it is desired the city council to extend their deepest appreciation to Vicky for the excellent time and service she has afforded the citizens of Graham and her fellow employees. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Graham that Vicky is to be commended for her outstanding public service to the City of Graham, and that this recognition become a part of the official records of the City of Graham for all time, and the original thereof be presented to her in person, presented this the 8th day of August, 2023. Jennifer Talley, Mayor, City of Graham.
Can we get a picture?
Yeah, I'll take.
Congratulations.
Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. A, to approve the July 11th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes and to approve the July 21st, 2023 special closed session meeting minutes. B, to approve the Veterans Day Parade on Saturday, November 11th, 2023, and the closure of McCain Street from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. C, to rescind the adoption of an annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits to the City of Graham for an area off of Kimmery Road approved on July 11th, 2023, due to incorrect property information submitted on the annexation ordinance, including the legal description and plat. D, to set the date of a public hearing for September 12th to consider a contiguous annexation request, extend the corporate limits to the City of Graham for a tract of land totaling 64.441 acres located off Kimmery Road, and direct the city clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the petition. E, to authorize the city manager and the city attorney to effectuate the on-call engineering services agreement with Alley Williams, Carmen and King, Withers, Ravenel, and Hazen and Sawyer pending legal review. F, to approve a resolution adopting the 2023 water shortage response plan pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-355I. The state completed its review of the 2023 WSRP for the city's water system and found that it meets the minimum criteria. G, the approval to approve a resolution authorizing the conveyance of a 2005 Chevy Impala, a 2007 Ford Crown Victoria, and a 2010 Ford Crown Victoria to the Alamance Community College pursuant to General Statutes 160A-274. H, to approve a budget amendment updating the project ordinance for an addition to the existing garage at the Public Works facility in the amount of $215,000 to be funded by the American Rescue Plan Act project. I, to approve a settlement of uncollected real and personal property taxes in the amount of $114,000. Taxes in the amount of $114,706.09 for fiscal year 2022, 2023. Do I have a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Likewise, motion carries. Public hearings. 1, rezoning 53.904 acres, South NC Highway 87, Phase 4 of Rogers Springs Homes. City Council will consider a request to rezone 53.904 acres located at South NC 87 Highway from R18 low-density residential to R9 high-density residential for the purpose of extending the 4th phase of Rogers Springs Homes. Okay, this was been continued from the May 9th, June 13th, and July 11th city council meetings. Planning board recommended denial of the rezoning by a vote of 4-1. And I'll recognize our assistant city manager, Aaron Holland, who is running the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. As you just said, this is a request to rezone 53.904 acres of property from R18 to R9 for the purpose of extending the 4th phase of Rogers Springs Homes into this area. The property is mostly inside of the suburban residential future land use zone, while the area near the river makes up the rural residential area, which can't be built upon due to it being in the floodway. The future land use plan notes that principal uses in the suburban residential zone predominantly are made up with detached single-family homes. The appropriate density for this area is 3 to 6 dwelling units per acre. The maximum number of lot units you could build with 9,000 square feet, according to the development ordinance, is roughly 256 homes. The future land use deems appropriate at 6 units per acre is roughly 318 units. The planning board, as you stated earlier, voted 4-1, recommend denial of the rezoning at its April 18th meeting.
Could you go over those numbers again? I don't know if I was.
So it was basically breaking down roughly what you could potentially have. We don't have a site plan to actually show because it's just a rezoning phase at this point, but it was just saying that based on the area, you're looking at roughly 256 homes if you were doing 9,000 square feet.
What if you're doing R18? What it's currently zoned?
I'm not a civil engineer, but I would say probably half that if you're doubling the size of the R9 to R18.
Is most of the land buildable?
I think we have, if you see on this image here, you do have some significant flood plain with floodway on about half of the property. The area on the northern side of the property here is buildable. You can build in floodplain, even though we don't, we don't recommend folks do that because of what the end result for the buyers having to purchase insurance and stuff like that. But you do have all this open area and then potentially this area here if they want to take it to that level. But I mean, it's a 53-acre lot, so roughly half of it's still developable.
Okay, this is going to be a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on the proposed rezoning?
Stage. Want to run a presentation? We run it now?
Yes, please. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'm Jason Ewing. I'm the Land Acquisition Manager for Shugart Homes. With me tonight, I have our Land Development Manager, Will Derrickson, and our Project Engineer with Bowman Engineering, Paul Lawler, in case there's any questions. So you can see the site. This is to extend the fourth phase of Rogers Spring. A little history on Rogers Spring, the 111 acres that phases 1 through 3 are planned and platted in was rezoned in September of 2018. Shortly after that, we talked to the property owner who sold us those 111 acres, and she sold us the additional 54 acres that we are here tonight to discuss. That transaction took place in February of 21, which was only a few months after we platted our first phase of Rogers Springs and started selling homes in Rogers Spring. We are currently building in phase 2. I believe phase 3 is almost ready to be platted. So phase 4 is an addition to the site that we look to probably begin development in 12 to 14 months. Go ahead and go. This slide shows you the access points for phase 4. There is access through our main entry point for Rogers Spring on Channel Street. And then there is additional access points on Lacey Holt Road and Mayfield Drive, which will lead back to the plan on phase 4. The existing zoning, the R9 zoning that we currently have for phase 1 through 3, and then the other adjacent properties, Forks of Alamance, I believe Windsor built most of those, and that is also R9. Our review of the site and making sure that we had a site plan and a community that met your comprehensive land use plan. As Aaron said, this area calls for or appropriate density of 3 to 6 units. And you'll see on the next slide, our proposed unit count is only 84 units, which density is 1.6 units per acre, which is considerably lower than what is recommended based on your land use plan. Again, to reiterate what Aaron said about the amount of buildable acreage on this site, we have 24.5 acres dedicated to be undisturbed open space. Paul or Will can go in a little bit more detail on that, how we're going to clear and grade some of the other areas and not disturb those acreage. But it was important to us to make sure that there is open space and we left it wooded and as it is, so it can be protected. The next slide, Aaron. Again, this just reiterates that rezoning this property from R18 to R9 is consistent with your comprehensive land use plan. There is water and sewer accessibility as we would tie into our third phase of Rogers Spring. And the proposed density is well below what you all have targeted for that area of the city limits. Little information, go back one. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. So again, as I said, this is 84 lots. We have, I believe, 158 lots in phases 1 through 3. And that also, the density of that is also well below the recommended density. Yes, yes. And I apologize. We had a miscommunication internally. We thought that we had delayed our hearing for a few months, and we didn't realize that it had been on your council agenda each month since the planning board meeting. So we apologize. We didn't mean to be a no-show those 3 meetings. We thought we had pushed that out.
That's okay. Appreciate your explanation though. Are you saying that in phase 1, 2, and 3, the total number of homes that you have is 158?
158 total lots. Like I said, we're currently building in phase 2. We haven't started in phase 3 yet. I believe Will can touch on where we're at with our phase 3 plans as far as scheduled to be platted. But on paper, phase 1, 2, and 3, we've got 158 home sites.
Okay, and what are they zoned?
Those are also R9.
Okay, and were they previously R18?
Yes.
And have you already purchased the section that you're calling phase 4?
We have.
Not on a contingency or anything?
It is not. So when we purchased the 111 acres from Dixie Rogers in November of 2018, we went under contract about a year and a half later on these 54 acres. And we closed on this February of, I think, 21. So we've owned this piece for a little over 2 years. Development, especially in our current climate, it's not fast. So we're just now getting around to getting the site rezoned so we can queue up our development timeline, like I said, about 12 to 14 months out.
Is that due to labor shortages or?
Yeah, design, a lot of design issues, materials. We've had a lot of demand in a number of other communities.
Because I know it's not a shortage of buyers,
No.
even with the rates being what they are.
Good evening. So I'm Will Derrickson, Land Development Manager. We had a long design period between our phases 2 and 3, ended up changing engineering firms as well in order to get to the project that we are now. So we've just started phase 3. We've just started breaking ground. We actually need a new lumber company. So if anybody has a recommendation, please let me know. So that got us to the point we wanted to be ready for phase 3 before we brought phase 4 to your attention.
The road widths, Aaron, is this an older city street? Do you know, like can you go on Google Street View and see? Yeah, the ones coming in off of Rogers Road. Is there enough room is there cars parked on the street or any of that sort of thing?
I've been out there where bad cars there, but it's not like a lot of traffic coming up and down the road. So you can move around.
I want to make sure that I'm clear. He's saying that with the R9 zoning, you could build up to potentially 318 homes. Is that what you said, Aaron?
Right, so my point of reading that was so that council could understand from the amount of land that's out there, this is what that zoning could potentially afford. They were drilling down, even though this isn't traditional zoning where site plan. It's showing, they're showing you what they're, what could be done, or what they're actually doing is the point of that.
So is there a reason that you wouldn't have done conditional zone rezoning? Because the caveat here is that you could say that you're just gonna put 84 lots in there. But once it's rezoned, you could still potentially put in 318 lots after the decision to rezone it.
Right. And if you look at the screen, you can see, actually, do you have the one for the floodplain in there? Yeah. As Aaron touched on, actually, yes, the next slide, you can see the floodplain. You can see where the floodplain comes up. We don't build on any lots that would touch floodplain because of the extended cost for both the homeowner's insurance, but also the lending. So this site plan is maximized with your required lot widths and square footages. Also, if you look at some of the lots on the far right-hand side, they're a lot deeper. We don't go in and build everything on a 9,000 square foot lot and just try to cram as many houses in as we can. We want to create a lifestyle and livability and allow people to have a functional backyard space to utilize. So a lot of these lots are larger than 9,000 square foot. If I remember, there's probably maybe only 10%, Paul, that are at the minimum square footage, just because we want to utilize the space that we can to create more backyard and usable yard space.
And tell me about the tree. You said you like to try to keep a wooded lot. Do you go through the development, the existing property and tag trees to keep, the mature trees to keep, or do you just go in and clear
So-
cut and then go back and replant trees?
We do replant trees. We have, based on your development ordinance and then our standard of street trees and front yard trees. We clear the site that we would develop. Everything that was in that green space on the next slide or the previous slide to this is the area that would be undisturbed.
And with this, what are your side setbacks?
Are they 10 foot?
Hey, Mayor Talley, I pull that up real quick. Looks like we have a 30-foot front setback, and then I believe it is a 5-foot side setback. I know the lot width is a 60-foot. And I believe it's a 5-foot side setback. And just to comment on the right of way comment from earlier, we are proposing a 50-foot standard public right of way that meets the city's detail.
Madam Mayor, it looks like the R9 zoning is an 8-foot required side setback.
So with that, I assume you would not be able to put in 87 lots. Is that right?
No, the 84,
84 lots.
84 is what it would be. There's nowhere to cram more in there. It's been designed to accommodate that side setback and where in the.
Are you saying that was drawn with the idea of a 5-foot setback?
No,
or
that drawing is per your development ordinance.
With the 8-foot?
Correct.
Okay. So it'll have a 30-foot front and 8-foot side.
That's correct. And I think the minimum lot width is a 60-foot minimum lot width.
Do you have an opportunity to speak with any of the residents in that area?
I have not, I believe one or two came to the planning board, and Paul had an opportunity to speak with them. And then one of our colleagues, Ken Capron, has spoken with a number of folks over the years. He was involved in this back in 2020.
Aaron, on Street View, does it show any part of their phase one that's completed? Do you have anything on your website or anything that shows what your phase one looks like?
There is, Aaron, if you Google Rogers Spring Shugart Homes, it should pull up the website. A little bit of information while he's pulling that up. This neighborhood is our Vanguard product line. It is not the entry level. There's a mix of vinyl and brick and stone facade. We have, I believe, 9 floor plans currently offered in there, 4 of which are main level owner suites for anyone who doesn't want to have to go up and down the steps, which, you know, my wife and I just bought a main level owner suite last year, and I will never go back to walking up steps to a master bedroom after that. It's spoiled me having everything that I really need on just one floor. Our pricing, I believe we start right at 400. Yep, there you go. Right, 400 is the entry price. The median price point right now in what we have sold and what we have under contract is right around 440. We have floor plans that are 3-bedroom, and they can go up to 6-bedroom. Square footage range from 1,600 to 3,600 square feet. So there's a variety for many different home buyers that we can satisfy.
Do you have any common areas, open space throughout the development?
Yes. Is the site plan on the website? So in phase 1B, we got a paper copy here. I don't know, approach. Site plan.
Floodplain. Mhm. So would you be providing like a playground or something there? But Ricky, what's that little thing that you got? Yeah, pavilion. Like they usually have like a HOA kind of common space, multi-purpose, like shelter area.
So we have space next to 2 lots, 2 open common spaces that we could do something like of that sort. We could do a playground, we do a dog park. There's not enough space for an amenity here.
Not enough space to do anything
pool.
like a,
Yeah.
no, not a pool, but
Right.
like I think what seems to be very common is just like these, you know, a place to have a birthday party or a
Right.
place to have like a gathering for your, I don't know, yeah, kind of thing. Yeah, gathering space, yeah. Or, and then I know our rec director had come to us, I think last year, and had said like a multi-use kind of field that kids could, you know, put up soccer goals or
Right,
whatever,
right.
like kind of like a multi-purpose field. I mean, it's not something that's gonna break the bank or anything, but when you do, 20 homes or whatever, but when you start doing 156 and then another 80, like what I think we like to be able to see is that you're providing some sort of recreation for the development, because it puts another burden on the city to then provide that recreation if it's not located, next to a park. Now, even if it is near a park, the shelter kind of thing is something that's, I think the residents really like, seem to really be very popular with them.
Is, how large that? Well,
Do you think that it's pretty popular in your development?
Extremely.
as you see on the map here, the best location that we would be able to do that is where the bottom bin comes into the previous phase. We have open space allocated currently. That's located in white. What I wouldn't want to do is tear down more trees to develop more common space. We have done trails previously through undisturbed areas. That's something that we can do quite easily. We just have to make sure we respect the homeowners that purchase their backyards, so we don't have lots of people walking in a wooded area behind their homes.
We are certainly open to looking at some sort of a gathering space or an amenity that would benefit the neighborhood.
So what you're proposing of 84, you will not exceed 84.
Correct.
I mean, where if somebody said, I would like, let's say say you got two smaller lots that I want both. And you'd say, especially if they wanted a bigger home, one of your bigger models.
These lots our Vanguard lines are 44-foot wide homes. Typically, we have some that are 40 or 42. So within the 60-foot wide lot and the standard setbacks, that fits our Vanguard lines perfectly.
Okay.
And lots of times we see people, whenever they want a larger home, they want that third car garage. And a lot of these lots, even in the previous phases and what we're building now, we're able to provide those 3-car garage options if they like to choose that.
Okay.
Joey, you got any questions? Ricky? Aaron, what the reasoning was from the planning and, did you attend the planning and zoning meeting? What was the reasons for the denial?
I think it was centered around additional traffic that would be generated from the potential new homes being added there in that area.
But you said the road's adequate, is that correct? The road's new?
I mean, as far as the condition of the roads and the functionality of the roads, I mean, they have 3 entrance and exit points for this subdivision. So,
I think the concern is Rogers Road.
yeah.
How much more traffic
It's the
do we
ends.
want to cram onto Rogers Road?
It's not necessarily the internal part of the subdivision. It's
Right.
what they're saying was going to Rogers Road as was just mentioned.
What's the road coming in off Rogers Road to this development?
Tracy Hope.
We did a road improvement in the previous phases, adding a left-hand turn lane on Rogers Road coming into our subdivision.
And that was part of DOT's requirement during TRC. which this would also go through TRC, obviously, which DOT is part of. So if there's any additional requirements that are going to be needed, it would be evaluated, and then DOT would require, as the dedicated term was from the prior phase.
So, I'm sorry, can you go back to that picture? Where it goes out to Rogers Road?
Slide 3. The next one up calls out those 3. There you go.
So what was existing there? What neighborhood was existing there getting to this new development? All of those ones that are R18, is that right?
As far as the roads themselves,
No, like if you were to, is it like just 2 homes on that road before you get to this new development?
Those 2 homes were on Rogers Road.
Yeah.
There was not a development there until
Right, there's
past
just homes
couple
on
years.
So
Rogers,
those roads.
but there are 18 homes.
Right, but so it just passes by their house, right?
Lacey Holt now continues across Rogers into this development, where it
Okay.
stopped at Rogers.
right, these are new. These are new roads here.
Well, where you come across Lacey Holt, that's in the Forks of Elements.
Right, but I mean, as far as the history of those roads, those were created when these new subdivisions came on board. So if you're talking about the history of the roads, these 3 weren't there
3-4 years ago.
5 years, 5 years ago.
The Lacey Holt one was there because he crossed the road as a gravel road. Stubbed out and fed those 2 houses that are there on the R18.
Right,
Used them as a driveway. Just a stub, it wasn't.
and then it was improved whenever the subdivision went in.
Is there any other future development there at the? Or this is it?
Adjacent to our site.
Right, that would be traveling on any of those connected roads going back out to Rogers.
We don't have anything planned. The only other adjacent area would be to the north. That's the Faust property. I know that previously they had some conversations with Mr. Faust on that property, but we haven't moved forward with any sort of expansion there.
Well, he didn't want to sell it at first, and now he does want to sell it, so. Is it possible for you to be able to make a connection to 87 there?
From their track?
From their track? Doesn't their track go back over to 87? Yes, it does.
Does it extend all the way? Yeah, there would be pretty substantial creek crossings, it looks like.
I think there's just one creek crossing,
It's just one
I think.
crossing.
We haven't gone through any design on the Faust property. Currently, we're not under any active conversations with them.
But you were trying at one point to get that property, right?
It's my understanding that the Fausts reached out to Ken Capron, our their land acquisition manager, and we never came to terms on the parcel.
I do recall Kristen Faust spoke up at the planning meeting, and she had a concern. She wanted to ensure that there were stub out connections into their property, which there are 2 streets stubbed into their property. So they are not landlocked or forced to do any sort of a creek crossing if they wanted to pursue development on their site.
It would have just been nice to be able, in a perfect world, to be able to have that traffic going either way, going 87 or, and trying to alleviate some of the traffic off of Rogers Road. And, you know, if it doesn't happen as a result of cost due to not being able to go over a creek, that's one thing, but reason it prompted me to have a conversation with them was, you know, it was, you know, this was their personal home and they didn't mind selling land for development as long as it didn't affect them. And I'm like, well, when it affects your neighbors, you know, you can't, you know, you have to do unto others as you would, you know, that he's like, well, I don't want all that traffic coming by my house. I'm like, well, I'm sure your neighbors feel the exact same way, you know, so if you're able to, and now they want to sell their house because I think they're building a new house, like kind of more out in the country. But it would have been nice to have that connection. And they would have I wish they would have come to that resolution a lot sooner. Because maybe that would have opened that up more financially for you to feel like that's worth pursuing. To actually have those connected streets all the way from Rogers Road to 87. But you don't think that's a possibility?
Like Will said, we haven't done any sort of engineering exploration on that. I mean, I'm with you, Mayor Talley, that would be phenomenal to have a connector to 87 and have two ways in off of two main roadways. But we haven't done any sort of engineering exploration on that. It would be hard to say without really seeing what it would take. You know, if it's $100,000 creek crossing or $800,000 creek crossing, you know, that's what would really tip the scales.
Do you know, Aaron, about how big that creek is?
I think it just is key. You don't know you're on the lower end of the call. You know, those 100,000. But if you see them over big, like I said,
We'd have to get the Corps involved as well for all the permitting, as you all know very well. See what mitigation would be there as well.
Okay. Well, just keep that in your back of your mind. Be ideal. Is there anything else you'd like to present? Is there anyone else here in regards to Rogers Springs Phase 4? Hi.
I'm guessing it is open for the public to speak on this.
Oh,
It's a
yes.
zoning change.
It's a public hearing, yes.
And I've had the opportunity. I live in the neighborhood just north of them. My
If
name
you'll
is Peter Murphy.
Yeah, state your name and your address
I live in-
for the clerk.
Peter Murphy, and I live at 1933 Meadowview Drive in Graham. And I do live in the neighborhood north of this neighborhood. And I get to, now that they've cleared all the land next to mine, a different builder, I get to hear all the noise coming from that neighborhood already. So I am a little concerned about adding more houses. And nothing against Sugar Homes. They looks like they build very nice homes. But I am very concerned about going to R9. It's an extreme jump and you're building at the back of the neighborhood. The roads, and there was a little discussion on the roads that were built going in there were built to the 27-foot wide standard. I know the right of way is 50, you know, that's norm, but it's a 27-foot wide road, which is a medium density road. We already have high density in there. So the roads coming in and out are now going to be serving high density. And they're not built for that. So I am concerned about how much traffic is going to go in and out of there. I have driven in there myself. If somebody's having a party and there's cars parked on both sides of the road, on Channel Drive or any of the other entrances, you can't get through. It's one car at a time. So it was built to a medium to low density, or actually a medium density standard. But you're gonna be rezoning it to high density. And so it's really not something that people typically do, is put high density in the back of a neighborhood. Usually the high density is put at the front of the neighborhood so you can get right out of the neighborhood. It made sense the way you guys set it up to do R18 towards the back. But now changing that and jumping from R18 to R9 is going to be packing a lot more homes in there. And they, the current owners may have the greatest intentions, but 10 years from now, a different builder could come in, and you've already zoned it R9. You can't stop them from putting in more homes. And so even though they're leaving a bunch of empty space, you can't stop another builder because you've already approved it now at R9. So I ask that you seriously look at, don't jump to R9. That's high density. It has a major impact on the city, the cost, the schools, everything else. You're adding a lot of homes south of town, on the far edge of town. And we don't need a city-like environment going up further out. We need to, be really thinking smart as we grow this town. And I have moved from other busier areas, and I've seen this exact same thing happening. And I've been moving away from it, and I like it here in Graham, and it's a nice setting. I don't want to see to go the path of a lot of other places I've seen. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate your time for being here. Is there anyone else from the neighborhood that would like to come and speak? Are you here from the neighborhood? Are you here from the neighborhood?
I'm Janice Holt Cash, and I live on the corner of 1820 Lacey Holt Road, Monroe Holt Road. I own that 25-acre farm, 25.95. And the Lacey Holt Road, the original Lacey Holt Road that connects at the other end at Monroe Holt. Yes, it's already overcrowded. And as you know, Leo Terra has 193 houses they're putting in right there on Lacey Holt Road. And the exits from their development is on Lacey Holt. So you got all this right there, all congested right there together. So I didn't come here to speak against them, but I do live on Lacey Holt Road. That's always been our family land. So
We didn't, the
So you
council
really-
didn't vote for that development. I'll just let you know that. We really try to work and work with developers and try to pass developments that we think will be harmonious to the existing neighborhoods that are there. And so I appreciate you being here. I just wanted you to be aware that this is a new council that didn't really pass any of that. And I hear from residents, gosh, all the time. I'm sure Aaron hears from residents all the time about the issues that they have on Rogers Road and how fast cars are going and then turning, and the road's not really that wide. There's no place to kind of pull over in order to miss somebody that might be turning unexpectedly in front of you. So there's some issues. The city of Graham doesn't own that road, and that's such a hard thing to tell a resident, because it's in the city of Graham, but DOT does, and we have relayed on numerous occasions concerns that we have from residents. And I think like even what the gentleman here said, that they had to put in a turn lane. I think that's probably something as a result of a lot of people complaining about the tremendous amount of traffic. Now, that may not necessarily be from their particular development, but could be from Leoterra or other development that's happening in that
I
area.
was just saying that
But yeah,
we do have another major development right
Yeah.
there within a half a mile of each other
yeah,
off Rogers Road and. Lacey Holt.
absolutely.
Okay, I actually came to speak to item 3
Okay,
on your agenda. But
okay,
thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak? And you said, Aaron, the reasons that, well, you read the minutes from the planning board. It was all based on the traffic. Is that right? Would the developers be open to the idea of developing in this area if it wasn't R9 but R12, or doing some sort of conditional rezoning?
We would be open to whatever conditions as far as density that you all feel comfortable with. Like I said, we have planned out for considered low density at 1.6 units per acre because of the amount of untouched land. And I understand the concern of that, even though a large majority of that is within floodplain and is going to keep most builders away. As long as we are able to build the 84 homes that we plan, that we are looking at, we're open to any ideas. You know, one of the other things that's attractive to us about the R9 is those 8-foot side setbacks. You know, again, with material cost, the cost of everything is higher now than it was 5 years ago. So when you go from a 60-foot wide lot to even a 70-foot wide lot, that's an extra 10 linear feet of cost for both the infrastructure and sod, concrete, irrigation system that gets passed on to the home buyer. And we try to be very cognizant of building a good product, but also making it as affordable as possible within the comparable properties to it.
So are you saying that there's other areas that you could put the 84 lots if you went to R12? Or
I don't think, Aaron, you might be able to tell us, I saw you had the zoning requirements up there. And like the R12, it looks like that's a 10-foot side setback. I think minimum lot width, the 80-foot lot width, so you're changing your lot widths, 20-foot wider lots. And again, that's our concern with that is those costs get added into the pricing of the home.
and how long is it taking for you to do the first three? Well, you just have phase 1 and part of phase 2 done?
We're currently building in phase 2A. Okay, so we're just now building in phase 2A. So phase 2 was split into sub phases, 2A and 2B. 2B was just recorded, so we're building in 2A right now. So we
And then 3 is, what is that zoned?
R9.
Okay.
Now this rezoning is consistent with what phase 1 through 3 is. There's no design change from lot sizes. It's all based on your development ordinance.
And the total of all those is 156 houses, 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3 is 158. Technically, it's 151. There's 7 homes that are in phase 4 that are part of the original 111 acres. So the 84 homes, technically phase 4 is 91 homes, but it's only 84 that apply to this rezoning because 7 of them are already zoned R9.
Well, I don't hate what you're, putting forward. I just don't know that I can vote. Me personally, it's my personal opinion. to just do a strict rezoning. I kind of championed conditional rezoning for exactly a purpose like this many years ago, because I don't like the uncertainty of just strictly rezoning something, and then there could be, 318 potential parcels being built in there.
Right.
And so with conditional, you know exactly what you're going to get. There's no kind of question about it. I like to see potentially something in there as something recreational, especially when you start getting into these numbers of over 150. Even though it's done in phases, when you get the whole development done together, I'd like to see some sort of recreation in the development. And the large amount of traffic, and just even having, even on all homes having 2-car garages, and then sometimes even having 3-car garages, the amount of traffic from the development is going to put a lot more pressure on the neighborhood there that already I think is pretty congested as it is. But I don't want you to think that we're not developer friendly. We want to try to work with developers, but I'm just letting you know kind of what my hesitations are, and that if it were to come back with a conditional rezoning or request for R12, I think I would be much more open to either one of those requests. That's just me personally. There's 4 other people. We all have an equal say. I don't have any more say than any person on this board, but those are my immediate concerns.
Okay.
Do you have anything, Joey?
Just, I'm in agreement with you, Mayor. I just think it's too much in that area. I don't know what the plans are, if there is anything for Windsor Homes. Do they have any more room for development in that area as well? That would make a big difference in the traffic if they expand as well, or want to expand. I don't know what property is available. I know if the Faust sells. I agree with Jennifer and Chuck.
Ready to close it.
Yeah, did you have any comments?
Nope.
Fine.
I agree with Mayor Talley. I'm frankly kind of disappointed the prior council approved the R9s in the first 3 phases. So I'm definitely in agreement with you.
But I mean, that being said, we always appreciate developers developing with the land and not trying to, as you say, cram as many homes in a parcel as you can possibly do. We want you to try to, it's just like if you had a 10-acre lot and you were building, your home, you'd go out there and you'd mark certain developed trees and try to keep the ones you could. And that's just shows an effort on the developer side to try to build with the land and not just, clear cut and then put back unmature trees that take years and years and years. You already have a mature tree that is worth thousands of dollars, and they cut them down and then, and I know it's easier. I'm in my husband does development and does construction, and so I get that. But I just think that anything that you can show the council to try to not make a situation worse. Obviously, like having the newer roads, because one of the problems that we're encountering right now is the previous council passed a very high density development with an existing neighborhood, and it's the only connections going out to a main road. And those roads are completely like I mean, they're like gravel now because all the trucks going in and out and everything, it's just destroyed the road there. And some of the council members got elected on this council as a result of poor development decisions. And so we appreciate you not trying to put in 318 homes and trying to limit it to that. If there's a way that you can use more of the land that you have, I understand your limitations with with the flood zone property, but to use more of the property or become more creative with the lots and do something like R12 that would maybe minimize some of the traffic. I can't speak for everybody else, but I would be more open to it because we want you to be in Graham and we want you to be successful and we need more homes and we have a lot of people that want to be here. But we just want to make sure that it's harmonious with the rest of the neighborhood. And not just the part that you got rezoned for R9, but the rest of all of, that used to be farmland and countryside and corn and fields and all that sort of stuff. So it's a big difference. I know you're not necessarily from here, but it's gone from to, it's a big kind of shock to people that have been there for several years. So, but I appreciate you being here.
I think some of that is you're all's doing for making Graham such a more attractive place to want to live and work and play that there's this demand for more housing.
There is definitely a demand for more housing and people wanting to be here. Our tax rates that just got cut in half is like an incentive every single year to any business that wants to come here. And vehicle tax is half of what any county around here is. So if you're in this area or you work in Raleigh or you work in Winston or to live in Alamance County, it's definitely a game changer because of our taxation for sure. And so when you look at Chapel Hill being 90 some cents or whatever per 100 and we're like 42, the big difference for both businesses, for people that just rent and for people that are property owners. So we hope that you'll develop the property, but that you'll do so in maybe a less dense manner. So,
Well, we would definitely be interested in evaluating what an R12 would do to the site plan, how it would change the layout, how that would impact not only density, but again, functionality of yards and backyards and space.
And for us to add open space as well and be able to show that. We just did walking trails through a wetland area in Pofftown that everybody loves going to
Yes.
the lake. It's very attractive. I know my wife would want that as well. So,
yeah.
and my children.
Build something that you'd want to live in, right?
Absolutely.
So we feel like we have a very desirable area. And, most towns hope to have one major road through it. We have two major interstates that connect. And then lots of state roads that all come in, Highway 49, Highway 87, Highway 54, and Highway 49, all come within our little downtown. So I say all roads lead to Graham. It's a great place to be, but we appreciate you. And would you like for us to move forward with a vote, or would you like to withdraw and then come back to us with a new plan?
I think we would like to not get a vote tonight and sort of evaluate again what R12 would do, what the zoning requirements are for that, and for our engineer to kind of retool the plans. And like Will said, we can add in some of the more community centric amenities to that plan before we come back again. So I guess just administrative question would be, do we need to withdraw the petition, or can the petition be amended and this agenda item be tabled?
I think you'd have to go back through planning and zoning, but you can just request a withdrawal and then we don't make a vote. And then when you reevaluate it, then go back through planning and zoning. And I think you might actually get a favorable result there as well.
I would like to back up to what the mayor spoke about conditional. That just gives us a great insurance policy to know that that's what that land's going to be used for.
Yeah, okay.
So consider that as well when you're doing
Okay.
R12.
Yeah, we'll explore those two options with your staff and our engineer and then be prepared to come back before planning.
Mayor.
Hmm?
Excuse me, if I understood.
He will need to withdraw.
Mayor,
So-
I thought my understanding was if they come back with something less restrictive than what has been proposed, such as R12 or conditional, that they don't have to withdraw and start over. But I'll obviously defer to your legal people, but my understanding was if they're gonna revise it in some fashion that's less restrictive,
Mr. Ward, what is your thoughts on this?
my recommendation, they allow them to withdraw. Given the camera and the new application.
So, okay,
We're good. Yep, withdrawal.
And the annexation too. We'd like to withdraw both,
Okay.
this and the annexation.
all right. There's no motion needed, is there? Make a motion to. Okay, I make a motion, we accept the withdrawal for items number 1 and 2, the rezoning of Phase 4 Roger Springs and the annexation of the 59.9 acres located off May Drive. Do I hear a second?
I
Second.
second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you so much. and
Thank you
I
all.
look forward to seeing you back.
Appreciate your time tonight.
Number 3, rezoning of Monroe Holt and Lacey Holt Road, 57 acres, amending the existing conditional rezoning residential. Council will consider a request to amend the existing CR conditional rezoning of 57 acres located at Monroe Holt Road and Lacey Holt Road to make changes to the site-specific plan to remove the street tie-in to Tone Wood Drive, reconfigure open space, and reduce the number of mail kiosks. Planning board recommended approval of these changes in a rezoning of the rezoning of 5 to 0, sorry. And I'll address Aaron Holland, our assistant city manager, more information on this.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm reiterate a few things that you just pointed out. This is a request by Leatera Graham LLC and agents thereof to amend the existing conditional rezoning to make changes to the site-specific plan to remove street tie-ins to Tonewood Drive, reconfigure open space, and reduce the number of mail kiosks. Provided to you all is the original approved plan, along with the conditions associated with the approval. The previous conditions were that Windy Drive would not be connected to the existing street stub out, but the easements would be given to the city for water, sewer, and other utilities as necessary. Phase 1 of this project has been complete, but this request came from reviewing the phase 2 and 3 plans that show the removal of open space area and a question regarding removing the Tonewood Drive street connection. Planning board recommended approval 5-0 with the following conditions: that all previously approved conditions remain, that Tonewood Drive connection is abandoned, the mail kiosks are moved to a centralized location at the front of the development, and remove the open space and incorporate lots 117 and 125 and maneuver turnaround area on the northern portion of Archer Drive to not be inside of Evergreen planning and allow lot 85 to be relocated with the potential addition of 1 to 3 lots. Staff would like to add that if council does decide to approve the amendment to this condition of zoning, that the process to start the abandonment of the right of way of the Tonewood Drive on the other side would be in the coming months, so that area would not have any thought of being driven through, basically, because you have a lot there, basically. So just want to give you a heads up, if it was to be approved, that we would start the process to abandon the other side of Tonewood Drive.
Officer Velez, can you see if they've already left? He left his plans up here. So they don't have to get approval from us to add an additional lot on the conditional rezoning?
That's what this would be. The conditional zoning, it's a site plan that you had in your packets. This one here on your screen.
So if we approve this, we'll be approving all that stuff, including a potential of 1 to 3 additional lots.
You could approve all part of it all, or none at all.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
It's because it's a conditional zoning, you have the flexibility to not necessarily do all that's being asked, or you can do all that's being asked.
So what is I'm sorry, the section in the middle that's red, what is that?
These were the additional lots. So if you see on the original approval, that triangle, see how it's an open space?
Uh-huh.
And then see that there? And then if you go to the original one, Tonewood Drive, see here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you would no longer have a through street to go to Tonewood, because it would be a lot essentially.
So where's that open space going in this new project?
Well, you see, they sort of maneuvered some of it in this area here, and I believe they have some representation here to kind of speak on how they want to move some of the stuff around. So I don't want to steal his thunder, but you can kind of see where some of it has sort of shifted.
Okay.
There.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on the proposed rezoning? You'll please come to the mic, state your name and your address for the clerk.
Good evening. I'm Vince Townsend, 1A Wendy Court, Greensboro, 27409 is my address. I'm the owner of Green Mountain Engineering, and I did these plans, and I can answer any questions you have about them, but I know the owners were happy with the recommendation of the planning board to add a lot where the number 2 is and reconfigure the turnaround to satisfy the neighbor who's sitting behind me here to my right. I've already done that to the plans, and of course, we're pending your approval, we would move forward with those plans, but so do you have any specific questions about the changes that we've made?
So when you say a turnaround, you're saying on the bottom part underneath where the red is?
Well, there's a lady that lives to the, I think north is to the right on this sheet, so she's to the west of us. You see the stub that goes up the middle of the page with the big T at the end of it? I think it's Archer Drive. I can't
Aaron,
point
where are
to it.
you?
It's,
Is this one right here?
yes, yeah, that was too close to her property. So I've changed it and eliminated a lot there and reconfigured that turnaround. And that was the recommendation of the planning board, so that the turnaround does not encroach in that evergreen buffer. So there will be a nice buffer there for her when we're finished. But that's
The green would go all the way across.
yes, yeah.
Does that turnaround there allow for the
Fire truck.
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
the turnaround?
Garbage truck.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah. The turnaround requirements for fire trucks are huge. So you can almost land in a small airplane there now. Little exaggeration there. But they are big.
What was the vision of you removing the 2 middle lots right there?
Well, yeah, originally, I can't remember the number of lots on the old plan. I don't know how many were on there, but there are still fewer lots on the new plan than on the old plan. And I don't know if you can see where the there's a large pond in the front there, and we actually have more open space on the new revised plan than on the original plan. And some of it is up in the front where that little small pond is in the middle on Lacey Holt. That area got quite a bit bigger. So overall, there's more open space than there was originally.
How many lots on the original versus now?
I don't remember. I don't have the plan here and I can't quite see it.
Aaron, can you look and see?
I think we have, I don't remember. I would say I think we have 191 now. Is that right? And we had 195 or something like that. Is it? 193 originally, maybe? And
Yes, 193.
And 191 now, is that right? I think that's right.
And is,
Maybe 190 on this plan.
is the 190 or the 191 with that number 2 lot or?
I think the plan that you're looking at, I think it has 190 lots. And then the planning board suggested that we reconfigure that T turnaround and potentially gain a lot where the number 2 is and where the number 3 is. And if we do that, well, there'll be 191 lots.
Are you getting rid of that lot on the left up there where the T is?
Yes, yes.
Just that one lot?
That one goes away and we add one where 2 and 3 are located on that long cul-de-sac.
Yes,
And
so
3 is for what? What was there? A kiosk, a mail kiosk?
Yeah, there was originally proposed to be a mail kiosk there, but the postal service prefers to have one cluster box at the entrance of subdivisions now to reduce their trips, and I guess it's more efficient for them.
And it's going where? Is that up there on the
It's
top?
already constructed in that, I can't see the number. Is that up at the entrance? North, I guess it'd be in the southwest corner if north's to the right on Lacey Holt, that thing. That's a mail cluster box with parking and a handicap space there too.
it's right here, right, James?
Yeah, right there. That's correct.
Aaron, about there where lot 2 is. I know that was a big contention for fire and police have they signed off on that?
So this has been looked at by TRC. So they've chimed in along with Berg and as far as public safety services, being able to get in and out, and then sanitation as well.
And right there in the middle, what was that? Just open space?
Yeah, it was just open space. Where those 2 lots are. Yeah, just a green open space, and we were originally going to put a cluster box there.
A mail?
Yeah, mail. Yeah, the boxes.
And who's the developer on this property?
Leo Terra. I think they have an LLC for this. I can't remember the name of it, but it's Leo Terra something LLC.
We have Leo Terra Graham LLC
Yeah, that sounds right.
on the application.
And DR Horton, I think, is the builder, and they're having pretty good success with the homes in phase 1, from my understanding, but I haven't been out there lately.
All of them are sold.
I'm sorry, what?
I think all of them are sold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're probably eager for this next phase.
Everything is sold. There's nothing available. We have more real estate agents than we have homes. That's not an exaggeration. That's a fact.
So Aaron,
That's pretty pathetic, but yeah.
if we give up the connection for this road that we're gonna abandon, is that still gonna give them adequate water and sewer connection? Because I know in the original, they were talking about that's the end of the line. for that main coming down Lacey Holt.
Yeah, so I think that was dealing with the Windy Court, was it Windy Drive? No, sorry. No disrespect to anybody on Windy Drive, but yeah, that we just want to make sure that we were able to have access to those utilities along Windy Drive. I double check with utilities to make sure that if there are any utilities there, we would make sure we have an easement in place to be able to take care of that. I'm not familiar with any cutting through there personally.
We've already run our flow calculations for the water permit, and there is adequate fire flow without a tie-in to Tonewood.
Okay. So we good.
What is number 3 up there?
Oh, there used to be a mail kiosk over there too. At the end of each cul-de-sac,
And so what are you asking to do there?
to eliminate the mail kiosks and just have one at the entrance, consolidate into that
But
one.
it's not gonna be turned into a lot. It's just gonna be,
Yeah, that's.
just gonna be open space.
Yes, open space.
Will this subdivision have any park facilities like playgrounds or anything on it?
No, there's a lot of open space, but there is no active recreation area. Although that area where it says phase 3 is going to be somewhat level. The way we have it proposed to be graded. I mean, they could potentially mow that and it could be a pretty large area for kids to play kickball or something, you know.
In that middle space there?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Be a great place for a shelter.
What, Aaron, what is the green area right there from phase 3? What is that?
To the right of it, oh, those are wetlands, and the blue is what appears to be a stream.
So you couldn't get to the open space unless you walked into somebody's property.
Well, you can get into it from the end of this cul-de-sac. And if I add a lot where that number 3 is in the hook of the cul-de-sac, I was leaving, we have to provide access to the stormwater management pond. So there's a 30-foot wide swath of common area from the cul-de-sac back to the pond that provides anyone there access.
And you got a HOA?
Yeah, there is one established already in the first phase. They have to have one to maintain the ponds and the mail kiosk and the signs.
And so there'd be 2 lots there in the middle, the lot that's number 2 and a lot number 3. That's 4 lots that you'd be adding. Is that correct?
Yes, but overall, we still have fewer lots than the
Oh, I
original
know.
plan.
I
Because,
heard you.
yeah, the lots actually got a little bit wider when we went to do the engineering design.
Just want a shelter.
But also,
4 lots in exchange for a community shelter. It sounds like such a great deal to me.
I can't,
I don't even
I-
live there, but I'm
yeah.
just advocating for the people to move there.
you would have to speak to a Leo Terra representative. I mean, I'm an engineer and I don't want to agree to spend their money.
Leo Terrace here.
Yeah, Clay Mize is right here behind me.
Gee, Clay, what do you think about a shelter? Conditional rezoning, we can pretty much ask.
The only problem.
You can say yes or no, but
I would
you know,
say no, and the only reason that I say no, and I understand exactly what you're saying. But because deals like this are done without those things in mind. So I would be making a decision that we would be the ones paying for it and not DR Horton. And I'm unsure of the way our contract is written on it, but I do understand 100% at what you're saying. But I say no. We have no access into that area, in my opinion. for something like that. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just not something that's been figured into a whole plan, you know? But I do know that I've heard you loud and clear today. I will be designing more neighborhoods in Graham in the future. And I promise you that every one of them will have adequate shelters.
Well, just some sort of recreation. I mean, we just want to see that in the neighborhoods that are being built.
And I don't know if you may can answer this question, but you know, as far as trails, you know, could we do something, you know, to have better access into that area? Yeah, you're the one that knows the plan.
My suggestion would be, if I lived there, it would be nice if the two cul-de-sacs were connected via a trail, you know, which you could do without crossing the stream. And then you would have a nice walking loop, I guess. And it would provide, I mean, we could get a trail to come off the end of this cul-de-sac at the bottom right of the sheet, come along this pond and up into the, where it says phase 3, and then wrap around the other pond to the other cul-de-sac. And then you'd have a kind of a walking loop for the residents. But at the same time, that puts people wandering behind homes, which some folks probably would not be too excited about. So I don't know, that's probably, Clay would know better about that than I would.
I think we would be fine in this situation because you're not affecting that many residents by nature of, you know, just a couple lots on your lower cul-de-sac really would be affected. We would be fine with doing something like that.
Is there any other place other than that middle area that you could put a shelter where you're taking out that lot up there at the top on the left?
There's not a centrally located spot for a shelter, but you know, where I've reconfigured the T turnaround and eliminated that lot. There might potentially be room there for something, but it's not in the center of the site, really.
I mean, it is hard, you know, on us when we design things under certain sets of rules, you know, in the beginning, you know, because this plan, I think, started, I've been with the company for 3 years, and it was one of the first ones I think that I worked with Vince on. And, you know, we did our best to create a site plan that would be approved under those rules. It's very hard to go back and change things, even things like I'll bring up with the CBUs. So we hear from the Postal Service all the time, you know, they're on us about they like one central location versus having them spread all throughout the neighborhood. People don't like them, you know, being near their homes. So, you know, but this decision to consolidate them was made after we had feedback from doing it the way that was suggested in the beginning, you know, and brings us to here to change something as simple as that. And then for the overall density, we lost several lots through the design process on this one, several lots. So, and I think Vince did an excellent job of making it where we could still develop, you know, for profit, which is what we do. And to make everyone as happy as we can possibly make with all the open space on this one. But I did hear you tonight on what you're looking for.
I'm just saying, you know, you talk about changes and we're, you know, I think the council's open to giving you an additional 4 lots that you didn't have originally under the original plan. It's just, is there anything that you can kind of give this council to make the development, I think, a little bit more attractive to the, in regards to something recreational or, you know, giving up some green space. It's more justifiable when you give up green space and you get something in return. Is there anything, if you don't want to do a shelter specifically?
according to what you said, Vince, correct, we're actually increasing,
This plan has fewer lots than the original.
but it
rezoning.
also increases the open space.
Yes, there is more open.
There's
space
more
than-
open space
than
on
the
this than on the original plan as well. So I feel like we've already are offering more open space than before.
That's not what you're doing. Because you couldn't design it. You said yourself, you can't design more you can't build what you already had as far as lots there. And through the design process, your number of lots lowered. So if we vote against this, you're gonna have 4 lots less than you have regardless. And I'm just saying, I think the council's willing to do 4 more lots. That's 4 more sales that you have of homes. Can you do anything in the open space to make it more recreational friendly?
And we would agree to a trail system connecting the cul-de-sacs.
And so would you have like a space in between, I don't know, one of those lots there? Is
You
that
can talk
right?
to That, but I think what your intention was between the 2 lots
That's correct.
off the cul-de-sac.
Between the number 3 and the lot, I think it's 172 next to it. Running over top of that storm drain, there will be a 30-foot wide common area, which will give them access. So that's where the trail would begin. And it would wrap up around the wetlands, go around the pond, up around the wetlands and down the other pond to the other cul-de-sac. So it would add, I don't know, probably 1,000 feet of trail to the overall sidewalk network. And it would probably it'd probably get used a lot for people who want to walk and get some exercise.
That'd be gravel or
We typically do either rock screenings, or mulch. I mean, there's pros and cons to either.
Mayor Tally,
yes.
if you don't mind me suggesting that if that's a recommendation or condition that council place on them, that you leave a little flexibility in how you state it to where you would state that it would be a connection between the cul-de-sacs. So when they dig into it, they wouldn't have to come back in the event that,
Good call.
yeah. Just trying to save y'all a little time in the future on that.
How do you feel, Joey?
I'm not necessarily opposed to any of it. I would like to. The walking trail, I think, would be a great amenity to add.
Ricky?
I'm not opposed to it, but adding the walking trails will go to it.
Like Bonnie?
I'm not opposed to it either. I don't know, the walking trails might be, I think they'd be really nice, but I mean, I don't know if you looked at the land the way it is right now. I mean, there's not really, there's no woods left. So there's no trees, so they'd be kind of walking through people's backyards, you might be out in your backyard and or walking by your, it's one thing if you got woods and it's a trail through the woods, but I mean,
Well, I guess
I don't
I
know.
was envisioning somebody having like fencing up, so it wouldn't
Yeah, but-
really.
even then, it's maybe not everybody's gonna put a fence up, some people don't, and you don't really want people walking through your yard like that. It wouldn't be technically their yard, but it would be kind of weird,
Feel like an invasion. of
I mean, we
privacy.
have trails in our neighborhood, but they're in the woods, so they go in the woods behind the homes and they're not like, you don't see them walking back there, they're just,
Mhm.
they're in the woods, but
But potentially anybody buying that house would see that the trail's there and they could either be okay with it or not buy the house, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
What do you think, Bobby?
Definitely good plan and the giving them the flexibility to look at a trail or not. Where I came from, we kind of discouraged folks from building privacy fences because the lots were all quarter acre or smaller. And by putting up fences, you accentuated the fact you had a small lot versus it was open and everybody had, was in agreement with the way it was. And so if you've got a trail walking through there, I guess at some point, if the HOA could plant, take it upon themselves to plant some fast growing Chinese cypress or such, build their own screen.
And that's one thing that I will say is that we would be willing to look into every option that we possibly can to make it as nice of a trail as possible. And that's one thing that we rely on Vince to do. And a great suggestion there with giving us the flexibility to go either route, to just connect the two, because I do not think that the land or the topography in that area is prohibitive of a trail.
Okay, when I say, I'm not trying to belabor this point, but when I say like a shelter, have you done shelters in other developments?
We have not completed any yet, but we have one in Mebane at Hall Fields that has a large shelter.
And about like construction costs $3,000-$4,000?
I think more than that. And I don't know how small of a shelter you're talking.
Just something to put a picnic table underneath kind of thing. Well,
I mean, something that simple. I mean, if you would like to speak to that. I'm just struggling. I think what you're saying though, the cost would be minimal on something like that, just for like a picnic table, size shelter, very simple. But I would have to defer to him, who is much more familiar with the site plan as far as where it could go. That's what I'm.
Yeah, because the challenge will be accessibility to all of the residents. And from looking at the plans, if you put it toward the back, if you live back on the cul-de-sac, that's fine. But if you're at the front, you got to hike all the way back and then hike back to the house. And so the folks who get the most benefits will be those folks who live on those two pipes,
I'm
cul-de-sac.
envisioning something like it. That's at Chestnut Ridge.
That's a good sized shelter. That's
But-
about 20 by 30.
Yeah, it's like 20 by 30, but it's like that second picture. Can you say something like that?
But to play devil's advocate, if you do that now with the way it's already laid out, there will be people that don't like it because there's one picnic shelter stuck over behind their house that everybody in 190 homes are gonna come use. And they're gonna deal with that noise and the trash and everything else. That's something that I think needs to be done in the initial planning.
But none of this is built.
I know, no, it's built, it's designed. I mean, a lot of
We
it's
have
built.
spent. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot of it. They're popping those houses up. They're putting seeds and watering them and fertilizing them. They're popping up that quick. I mean,
Yep.
7 days.
But that
they're building the
section
house.
there at the top is not developed at all, right?
we are out there grading.
Right,
now.
but it's nothing built there or anything, nothing pre-sold or
Okay,
built or
I'm
anything.
not
Yeah.
disagreeing with what you're saying, but to come back after the fact, I think you're gonna step on other people's toes.
This is a conditional
I
rezoning.
know.
We can ask for whatever we want and advocate for the residents.
Yep.
They are getting 4 additional lots with the potential to
And I.
several $100,000. Asking for a $4,000 shelter to me does not seem,
Yeah,
And I
but
want
the
to-
thing is, to Graham's credit, we have good parks that everybody has easy to get to.
There's a park less than a half a mile from this, South Grand Park.
And I have to agree with Joey that
But this is.
If
a
I'm the
shelter
person that buys a house and all of a
just
sudden,
those
a
just those
shelter.
residents get to use.
But I'm not willing to make that a condition
Yeah, I'm not willing to make-
approving this other stuff, though.
you know, you may like it, yeah, this may be fine now, but folks who buy it says, why is that picnic shelter in my backyard?
I would not want it in my backyard.
I
That's what
wouldn't
I'm-
want it in
that-
my
that's-
yard.
That's what I'm saying. If it was planned initially to be over here in this large green area,
Where do you-
centrally located,
The one that's
Be
in your
different.
development, it's in,
Part of a park. It's small.
Yeah, it's all, it's its own entity, its own. I mean, there are houses that back up to it,
yeah.
but that was how it was originally designed. So. And there's woods back there too, so.
Okay.
Mayor, does the lady that lives
Would you like to
adjacent,
speak, ma'am?
are you happy with the plan that they've proposed?
Okay, well, I'm Janice Cashin, Hope Cashin, live on corner of 1820 Lacey Holt Road. A homeowner and landowner, the farm there that butts up to that, to their development. My original, what I was talking about that, originally when they started talking about this plan, when they presented it in 2020, it was stated that it was going to be used for green area and trails back there. Well, somehow or another that got lost, I reckon. But but that's not what I came to talk about. What I came to talk about was, if you'll put the plan back up, was that Hammerhead turnaround. My farm is an active farm. It has heavy machinery, and the problem is that Hammerhead thing was in the evergreen buffer, and they only made it 30 feet. So you've got, right now it has soybeans on it. Okay, you got people's yards within feet, just from here to there is their backyard. And you got heavy machinery. So I'm real concerned about the safety and people complaining about this heavy machinery. So Leo Terra at the planning board meeting were very receptive to moving that Hammerhead turnaround, which is in that buffer and right on the line. I don't know where they moved it, but I reckon, will we ever get to see how they revamp it? But anyway, so that was my original concern.
Will it just be a cul-de-sac?
Yeah, see, I thought we would see that new plan to go along with what the recommendation was tonight.
Okay.
Would like to see it.
Okay. The other question tonight that came up was when all those mail kiosks get put in the one, is that going to go over into the buffer at all? And it's not going to, when you add the extra ones, it will not go in. So my whole thing was I was real concerned about maintaining that 30-foot evergreen buffer uninterrupted, but I was told I needed to come speak to this point again. not
So
only at the
are
planning
you
board.
cutting down the 30-foot buffer? Or are you leaving the existing vegetation that's there in that 30-foot buffer?
No, ma'am. There is no vegetation there as far as like existing vegetation, but what Vince has done is he designed a new turnaround that meets all the codes, but also allows for the 30-foot buffer that's planned to be replanted, once the development's done, that 30-foot would be landscape. And he also, that's where we dropped one lot in order to do so.
Yeah. So I was just told I needed to come in, even though the planning board has submitted, they didn't put it on the agenda right up, but they did put that recommendation for that Hammerhead thing to be relocated. So that was why I came, to make sure that it is an active farm, 25 acres, and that whole section of the phase 1 there is, but right up to my little soybean or my cornfield or whatever it happens to be with heavy machinery, was just real concerned about the safety and, that type of thing. So the reason I requested it and the planning board has approved that, and that's what I was supposed to come speak to again. But then the other thing on the agenda, I don't understand why you say Monroe Holt and Lacey Holt Road, because that development is just Lacey Holt Road. The two entrances are on Lacey Holt Road. The roads around the backside of that land is Darrell Drive and Rockwood Drive. And now that so I didn't know why, if that made any difference when you see it rezoned in Monroe Holt and Lacey Holt Road. I just had a question why you would include
Yeah, it doesn't touch Monroe Holt.
at all.
No.
No,
Most of the time it's done as a locator for people trying to look it up on the map.
okay, I reckon that was just my question. Why was that Monroe Holt put in there? Because they had nothing to do with it.
Just a locator.
Okay, so I was just here thanking Leo Terra for working with, trying to get the Hammerhead turnaround off the boundary line and out of the Evergreen. And I reckon that's all I needed to say. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
hard work.
Thank you. Anyone else here from the neighborhood that would like to speak on this project?
I'm sorry, can I ask you one thing? When you talk about the traffic though, have you guys ever gone and rode through there?
Every day.
Every day.
Yep, every
I mean,
day.
through the development, the street,
Oh,
because I
yeah.
went to see what the road was called, Orchard Drive, when I was originally. And you couldn't get through the roads for the cars parked on the side. I mean, it's tight. I'm just telling.
Could you describe what it looks like? Is it a cul-de-sac?
Yeah, instead of a T, it's a one-sided offset, if that makes any sense. That lot, I can't see the number, but the last one on the left before you get to the T, that left side of the T slid down, so the road is just like with a one-sided turnaround.
It'll
on
be like the one over here in the top corner
it.
for the,
I don't know.
right there. Something
No, it's not
similar?
a cul-de-sac.
No,
It's
it's
still
a
a
T.
T, but it's not,
No.
it doesn't come up at 90. It's like this, if that makes sense. That's an L, yeah, kind of, I guess. I don't know. Well, it's still a T, but it's
Does that satisfy you?
turned 90 degrees, if that makes sense. Yeah,
So instead of a T, they just have the one side
right. And it's in that lot.
to the left.
Yeah, where he's got his pointer.
Like a Y.
Yes, the whole thing slid back away from the buffer.
And you would have the continuous 30-foot buffer of
Yes.
trees
Yeah.
and vegetation.
I mean, Graham would probably prefer to have us build the road all the way to the property line, but we can pull it back some if you want us to. I mean, I'm not certain that the buffer needs to go through the right of way, because the right of way stubs all the way to the property line. But we can plant a buffer in the right of way if you want us to. I mean, that's I'm not sure your engineering department would encourage us to do that.
Street all the way straight out to the boundary line, because that just encouraged people just to walk right out there into the field, because I didn't. That was the
Right.
original
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah, I remember you talking about a
Yeah,
berm.
So so whatever we can do to keep that safe or.
We could put a fence, I guess, maybe at the end of the street. Would that be, I mean, that might be logical. That would, because you really can't put trees in the right of way.
Okay. No one else to speak. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second your motion, Mayor.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a motion to approve or deny the rezoning. I think I'm gonna get everything, so I'll make a motion that we approve all the previous conditions of the conditional use, that Tonewood Drive connection be abandoned, that the mail kiosks are moved to a central location at the front of the development, that remove the open space and incorporate lots 117 and 125, maneuver the turnaround area on the northern portion of Archer Drive, not be inside the evergreen planting, and allow 85 to be relocated. Well, basically that there would not be a lot 85 anymore in that area. And then Aaron, the additional lots, I think there was 2 more additional lots besides 117 and 125. What numbers are those? Can you read what numbers those are? To allow for a lot where the previous easement for Tonewood Drive connected, and you said the 2 middle lots are 117 and 125? I've already done those. So the ones up there that says, does that say 3?
Yes.
And the one below it also says 3? There's 3 red circles. Can you read me those numbers? On the right, Aaron. Yeah. Are they just going to be open space? Is that right?
The one on the lower corner side.
Is a lot. Okay, and that the open, is that number 3, Aaron? That lower one, does it say number 3 on it?
And go to picture 16.
That was just
The next
indicating where
slide.
the kiosk was.
I think 16, doesn't it have the
Three
lights
is
on
But
it?
for
they're-
kiosks.
But it needs to be in the motion that they're changing that to a lot.
Between
Yeah,
one
click on-
seventy-three and
click on
one
the next one
72.
down. Okay.
It's like. Shown on the drawing. It's all exciting.
I can't tell what that number is. Can you read me the number?
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter what the number would be because it's site specific, so you would just be approving what's shown on the site plan.
You'd be approving an additional lot beside lot number such and
Right.
such. I think, what's the lot number to the left of where the number 3 is in the curve there?
173.
It would be an
So-
additional lot adjacent to lot 173 in the previous open space for the mail kiosk.
Yes.
Yep.
To approve an additional lot located beside lot number 173 where the previous mail kiosk was located. The other mail kiosk to the north will be reverted to additional open space. That the developer will create a trail connecting the 2 cul-de-sacs located on the eastern side of the development and use that for a walking trail with rock screening. And that there will be a fence added at the end of, what's the name of that road? Archer Road, in order to discourage pedestrian traffic from traveling into the neighbor's farm area.
Madam Mayor, I second your motion.
Did I cover everything? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Street closure, new business, Patriots Festival, September 16th, 2023. Brian, well, City Council is considering the proposal of a Patriots Festival on September 16th to approve the closure of 100 blocks of east, west, north, south, 7 to 6 p.m. Recognize Aaron Holland or Brian.
Go ahead.
Say that staff has discussed internally some ideas of what the possibilities of a future event. I think we would like to withdraw this particular request because we're still discussing it, and maybe come back to council in the future after we speak with some other stakeholders, if that would be fine with council.
Works for me.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, next item on the, you don't need a motion or anything, do you, Aaron? Aaron, you don't need a motion, okay. Resolution for Eastern, thank you for being here tonight. Resolution for Eastern Piedmont, North Carolina Consortium supporting low-income residents. City Council will consider approving a resolution in support of participation in an agreement to join Eastern Piedmont, North Carolina Home Consortium, which will provide an opportunity for low-income residents of the city to receive benefits from grant funds to be used towards development of affordable housing. So Bob, your earlier discussion was in regards to why Burlington has pulled out of their existing consortium and wants us and others, the county and everything, to join this consortium. They were with Greensboro and all of them, right? Yeah.
Good. Okay. Let me state that again. In other words, it's back, I believe it's back in March, that there was consideration given to withdrawing, from the, the Guilford Greensboro Consortium, to set up another consortium, include Burlington and the five counties and the municipalities in it. So it, quite frankly, has been handled by Michael Blair and Matt Reese of the Piedmont Triad Council of Governments. If there's any question about it, it'd certainly be appropriate to ask them to come to address, the council. And I'd feel more comfortable, that they answer the questions because they know the details of it. It's a federal program, and there's a lot of details there that I'm not aware of, but they are, because they're actually working, with all of the government units, which includes Burlington, to set this up.
I think I'd feel a lot better having some more information about what this means, and mainly I don't think Graham has any problem, consolidating and working for Burlington to get what they want. But if there's a particular piece of property here in Graham that would be qualified, how would we make sure that our, I guess, request is heard, or that we have some sort of input into the board that makes the decision about how these things get funded?
That's exactly the type of question that I'm certain that they could answer.
Okay,
And I think it'd probably be beneficial because again, there may be other questions that arise that other members of the council may have. So I will talk with Aaron and we can make arrangements, for, and I don't know, either one or both of, those individuals come, Michael Blair and Matt Reese. And some of you may even know, well, many of you probably already know Matt Reese, so
okay.
if that's acceptable to the council, we can arrange that. So.
Is the council okay with that?
Yes.
Have them come back?
Yes.
Okay, yes,
You want
sir.
to table it or till next month or?
I'm sorry.
Can we table it until next month?
It's a deadline.
Yeah, actually, you could table it or, you could table it indefinitely and depend upon,
His availability?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
What is the deadline?
So I'm sorry, in the letter that we received, it was an August 15th deadline. So,
Oh,
Next week.
yeah.
okay. Wow.
What's the deadline? What's the reason for the deadline?
I just had in the letter that, after more discussions with HUD, we were told that we can add other members like your town by August 15th, which is a short timeline, but doable. So when we received it, it was a deadline of August 15th that HUD basically had put out. So
Well, regardless of what the deadline is, I mean, I don't know enough about it to make a informed decision. So, if they could come and speak to us and we, even if it's by phone, then we could have a vote, call a special meeting or something to pass it. If there's like an actual, like we're gonna miss something or a deadline that's, a hard deadline, then we could,
yeah, I
we
think
could
we
do
can,
that.
we can talk about it and then reach out to them, see what their availability is. I mean, we would have to call a special meeting, like you said, so we don't have that 48 hours, so you don't have a whole lot of time on that turnaround, but something I guess we could certainly discuss and reach out to them and see what can be done.
Okay. All right, thank you, Aaron. Easement agreement for Duke Energy Cherry Creek Substation. City Council will consider approving an easement agreement for Duke Energy Carolina LLC to serve the Cherry Creek subdivision located off Cherry Lane and to authorize the city manager and city attorney to effectuate the agreement. Recognize Assistant City Manager Aaron Holland.
Probably one of the simplest items we have on the agenda tonight. Duke Energy has submitted an easement request to the city of Graham to provide an easement area for overhead and underground lines. The property is located south of the Cherry Creek subdivision, which is located there off of Cherry Road. I guess the reason for it is that the city owns property in that vicinity, and any easement would require that council approve them to be able to do anything within that space. So that's why it's coming before you tonight, so that you can give the authorization for the manager and the attorneys to be able to proceed with that.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the easement agreement for Duke Energy to serve the Cherry Creek subdivision and authorize the city manager and city attorney to effectuate the agreement.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Graham Housing Authority. The city council will consider making an appointment to the Graham Housing Authority due to a clerical error. The applicant who wishes to be considered are Maynard Dennis and Lisa Mosier. Is that the only two?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we appoint Maynard Janus.
Well, I think we had already,
Appointed
I-
him somewhere else.
I was,
We
okay.
didn't? Okay, I'm sorry.
Do you know that person?
Well,
Look at its background.
yeah, I was looking at his background. That's what I was going off of, but I mean,
Um,
you can be on more than one, right?
Yeah. I didn't know anything about that person, and I think they were trying to make arrangements for
Well,
could
for Mr. Janice on his, he's currently the HUD Financial Sales Manager at First Citizens Bank. And reading his comments, I look forward to being an asset by fostering positive relationships with the community and commissioners, show commitment to short and long-term initiatives and projects, utilize my professional background, knowledge, valuable insight, and expertise to contribute to innovative ideas and solutions. I mean, we're talking about Graham Housing, that's HUD.
The hub, not HUD,
HUD Hub,
hub,
leaving in Hub Financial.
yes.
What is,
That's for the banking
oh,
system, not HUD.
my mistake.
I don't know. I guess maybe that's somebody that just put their application in. I had already talked to the other applicant, and I had talked to, what's the other lady's name?
Lisa Moser.
Evelyn Curtis. I think she had also, she was applying for reappointment. But, so I really wanted to appoint Lisa Kyle Mosier. But I guess we can take a vote either way. Do you know this Maynard person?
I don't know either one of them. I was just strictly going off of what they put in their applications. The other applicant was basically saying, I want to do this because my parents did it or because my mother did it. I mean, I don't know. I was just looking at the applications only, what they put on there.
Yeah, I don't know about this other person. I just.
Well,
know
the
that
thing is, they were,
Lisa's
they,
been a lifelong resident of Graham, and she's wanted to serve, and she tried to get on the historical committee, and then they literally, like, the night that they had the meeting, but they had it without her because she had just been appointed, and they changed the meeting date, and it was the night that she was working. So she couldn't get out of work to be on that, so then she couldn't come be on that board anymore, and so she was really excited about being on this board. But I'll go with
You
whatever
serve.
the council says, huh?
you represent the council on this board, don't you?
I don't think so.
No, this is a standalone entity.
Yeah, I don't think we have. Well, you want to nominate that person. I want to nominate Lisa Kyle. Who do you want, Lisa Kyle or this other gentleman?
I would recommend, her and her family.
Okay,
Well,
okay,
at least you got three right there.
right. And I think there's going to be another opening on that board. So if you could tell this gentleman that we believe there's another opening coming up soon, that to please, can we keep his application and appoint him once that position becomes available? Yeah. Because I think Miss Moser's retiring. So I'm almost sure by the end of the year, it's going to be another opening. So that way we can get both people on.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, the final vote was 3 and 2, is that correct?
Right, correct.
We haven't voted.
Oh, okay. Make a motion to appoint Lisa Kyle. Do I hear a second?
Aye,
Second.
I do.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Public comment period. Is there anybody that signed up in the back, sir? Hey, when's Scoggins working? Dang it. I hate I missed him. Mr. Westbrook, what can we do for you tonight?
I wanted to ask you about something that 2 times today, I went to places, this is my day to go around Burlington, wherever. 2 different people at 2 places asked me about something that I've asked about, and I still don't know anymore. I can't answer their questions. Arts around the square. She said, the first comment was, when are they gonna have it? I said, I don't know. Is there any movement on having something of the old facsimile of Arts Around the Square?
So we put in the budget for $10,000 to be used by Parks and Rec to try to put on Arts Around the Square again. I applied to on behalf of the city, I applied to the tourism board and got awarded a $10,000 grant from them to also do that. So I think we've initially met with both the Arts Council and the rec staff, the rec director, trying to encourage that, the development of that, what that's going to look like, and potentially looking at a date sometime in the spring of 2024.
The only reason because I hear so much about it. Like I said today, I went 4 or 5 places, 2 places. I mean, that woman talked to me today for 30 minutes about it. And her first comment was, I can remember when I was little and my grandma took me to Arts Around the Square. Do you remember that? And I said, well, I wasn't a little kid. My grandma didn't take me, but I remember the old Arts Around the Square. And I mean, people in Burlington, anywhere you go in Alamance County, they want to know about that. So I'm really glad that
It is coming
it's
back.
like the Balloon Festival. There's another one. We have had all these things over the years. People ask about them. So now I'm glad we're really doing that. My other thing that I want to ask about was because I rode past it again tonight. On the corner of East Elm Street, you know where the little gas station thing is there? It used to be a gas station, where he does the thing, the state, right on the corner of East Elm, if you're coming up into Graham across Hardin. There's a house right there past the little gas station. Every time he mows his grass, he did it today, it's piled in the curb. Now, where do you think all that grass goes as soon as it rains? It goes right in them 2 drains right there. I don't understand. If we had that ordinance, we changed the ordinance back whenever to change the height of the grass to 12 inches from 18 inches. That was a great thing. But there's nothing in the ordinance, I've been told, that talks about that. You're not supposed to put your grass in the street. You blow your grass back in the yard. I mean, if you look where, like my son, when he does my yard or my neighbor's yards or anybody over there, when they're done mowing, you don't take the grass and throw it in the street on the curb. You get it off the curb. In fact, I think there's a state law against putting grass, and the reason being is because they don't want it to end up in our water system. Now, we're paying $2 for stormwater runoff every month, each resident of Graham. I think that right there coincides with that because that's what's going on. If there's certain residents that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, just like if their grass is 18 inches and we go out there, well, we're gonna send them a notice. I don't necessarily want us to go out and cite people on this, but I would like to educate people on that. Because I look at them city drains, is everything that goes in them city drains, you know where it goes, right? Right over to that plant. Someone's gotta take care of that stuff when it gets over there. If we can stop anything like that, I would like to see something to where we can stop that from going on, where people, when they mow the grass, and we've even got landscapers in Graham that mow grass and they blow the grass in the street. I would just like to see.
Assistant City Manager, would
address
you like to respond to this?
I definitely don't disagree with what Mr. Westbrook is speaking on. The issue that you have, and we do have it in our ordinance under the illicit discharge ordinance, and it is a state law.
Right,
It's a very difficult ordinance to enforce.
right.
If I cut my grass today and it's blown into the road, cars passing by, wind blowing, by the time someone's notified with the city that that's the case, by the time we get out there, it's sort of all over the place. And then how are you keying in on that particular individual? You almost have to be in the moment for us to be able to act on it. And then even with that, you have so many days to remedy it, the property owner, that time frame, the grass is gone. So I certainly understand, and you're right. That's something that you're not supposed to do. It's just a very, very difficult ordinance statewide to be able to key in on a particular property and enforce. Now, if you do see someone that has done that, if you contact the city when you see it.
I'm telling you what, you guys go out there tomorrow morning. And it's there. I mean, I'm talking about, it's piled up on the street in the curb. So automatically, anytime it rains, all that stuff goes right down there in them two drains and it comes out over there.
And I can go.
And that costs the taxpayer.
And I can go out with Jenny to go check it out. There's no problem. But I guess what
But I
I'm saying
mean,
is like.
this is the problem with all this, what I'm talking about here in this situation. We've got 95% of the people in Graham doing the right thing. And we've got 5% doing this, and that makes it look bad. And that's just like in my neighborhood. If I've got one guy that don't mow his grass, what does that make the rest of the neighborhood look like?
And I don't disagree with that. But I guess what I'm saying is, yesterday we had a storm come through with strong wind. You see what I'm
But I
saying?
mean,
Like
if
it's difficult to enforce.
We're going around and enforcing, all right, like example, the height of the grass. If we see someone that's got high grass,
That grass,
go.
the grass isn't moving. So when you call in that the grass is high, we go out there,
Yeah.
it's still
but
high.
I'm saying the same thing, like when we're out and we're looking, correct? Like we're looking and we see the high grass, so, like we write things up. Should it not be the same thing if we go by and someone just come and mowed this grass and they dumped it in the curb, not on the grass, now mind you, not up in their yard, that's fine. That's where it's supposed to be. But they're in the curb, which automatically, that's gonna go in your storm drains.
Right, but we have one zoning enforcement officer, so when
I
she's
know,
out,
and
when
she's
she's out
good.
looking
She's
around, she may
excellent.
not be seeing the same thing you're seeing. So
Okay.
that's why it's important that if a resident
Right.
sees something like that, call the city, that way
It-
we can go in real time. And check it out that particular day. And
Well,
then
I'm
we
gonna
can
tell you,
send
if
a
I
letter.
call Jenny in the morning and she goes out there, she's gonna see it because the guy does it every time he mows the grass.
Call Jenny, that's her job.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I just didn't know if there was something that we could do about that situation, considering, like I said, in my little cul-de-sac, everybody keeps their grass cut. Hey, there's a certain standard, and that's why we have ordinances, correct? And I think that should be one of them that, I mean, some things irritate you when you see the same guy doing the same thing, and he's more or less laughing at us that take care of our stuff. I just don't, anyway,
Thank you so much.
Oh, when it happens.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any staff comments, Bob? No. Aaron,
Spoken enough tonight.
did Megan give you any words to speak? Is she listening? Have a great time. I'll be having a great time next week. I'll be on vacation next week. Long deserved one. Aaron, you got anything? Renee? Joey?
No, ma'am.
Ricky?
I would like to send, I hope I speak for council, to condolences to the firefighter
Mr. Stockwell.
that passed away.
Mr. Stocker? It's funny how you, he's a cantankerous old man. I loved him. Remember when he was here for that DOT meeting? Well, those are the last words I heard him. He walked out about that roundabout. Ah, I love it. It was such a, he was a piece of work. I love him. I love it when you get to the age where you just don't care what. You're just gonna say what you think, right? Well, thank you, Ricky, for that. Very nice guy. He will be missed. I just had,
My turn.
sure, I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Okay, the Patriot Festival that's scheduled for September 16th. In reading the description of it, an item caught my attention. And that was Arts Around the Square. I thought we had decided that would be a spring event.
So I talked to them about that. I think they were trying to incorporate that, but I think like, sometimes one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing, and I think it was news to them that I had gone out and applied for the grant from the tourism board. But I don't know. Do you want to speak to that? Brian?
Yeah, so we've done the 9/11 5K for the last 2 years. This will be the third year. Since year one, as it said in the presentation or the proposal, we've envisioned growing that event into something. And so in order to be more efficient with our staff and resources, Patriots Day event has kind of gathered momentum over the past year and a half or so. When you guys allocated money for our other programs line item, which is what it is when you bore down into our budget, then we move forward with blessings from administration. Arts Around the Square, Arts in the Square, Artisans in the Square is envisioned as part of that celebration, along with many other things to, go along with celebrating what we do in Alamance County, what our first responders do. I envision it as an umbrella event, meaning we have space, we're doing some things. We invite other organizations to come in and join with us to those things. So once again, we're more efficient with street closures and all this other kind of stuff that that downtown sometimes is overwhelming in all those events that are going on. Second thing, and Mayor put it pretty good, that one hand doesn't know what the other one is doing. We move forward staff-wise based on our schedule with what we've got going on and when we've got it going on in our schedule. So that's where we kind of fell into it. Mr. Westbrook talked about an Arts Around the Square facsimile or similar event or something like that. And that's what we're intending to give the city. My personal opinion, and I think maybe the opinion of the staff within the recreation department, is that it's really hard to recreate Arts Around the Square with 250 artist vendors just ready to go off the jump first year. So if we can have something that is incorporated with another event that also has space to grow. So if we start with 60 or 80 arts vendors. We grow it the second year to 100, and then we continue to add to it. And I think that's something that would be most beneficial, again, in my opinion. Looking at other festivals around us that are similar, that with the arts focus, mainly I'll talk about the Carousel Festival, an established 2-day event that this year I think had 60-ish vendors, arts vendors out on the field. And again, that's established event that's 2 days. Speaking with Alamance Arts, they're wanting to survey the artist that is in their circle to say, is this type of event something that you're looking to be a part of? What would be beneficial in your timeline? Would it be spring, summer, fall, something completely different, 1 day, 2 days? So there were a lot of different variables that were going in. Again, we were starting small scale with the Patriots Festival, incorporating with the 9/11 5K, moving downtown, going to have some other things. Timing wise, we sent the proposal that you're referring to, Mr. Chin, July the 14th, I think it was. So that was still a tight timeline, barely over 2 months to pull off something that we were going to move downtown. We decided to back off of that because different delays here and there. So we're not going to rush into something like that. We'll still have an expanded version of the 9/11 5K in this campus area, but we're not going to push to have something that we can't feel good about pulling off downtown.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, to refer back to the mayor's one hand, not knowing what the other was doing, springtime march around the square specific, it has to be called this and this time of year. We weren't aware of that. And again, I'm not sure if that's the best use of our resources personally.
Well, it might be one of those things that you get the businesses associated to help sponsor it. Because when people talk about it, they specifically talk about arts around the square. And there's so many different types of art. You know, you got sculpture, pottery, all that.
Dance. all
Dance,
different
you
kinds
could
of things.
pack, you know, every street here with all the different types.
I don't disagree with you.
And I think what we need to think about, Brian, is to instead of your staff doing it solo, you've got business associations and such where to get them engaged. So now schools, they got skin in the game.
Again, in the proposal, there were many different partners listed in that
Right.
proposal. So trust me, I don't want to try to lift that by myself. I can tell you that back when Arts Around the Square was in its heyday, I've been told, because I was a little fellow, that the business community did not like Arts Around the Square. Much like some of them do today when we go and we turn downtown into a water park, they close down for the day. That's very similar. I hope that we can turn that around. And those who maybe had those feelings, we can kind of bring them back into the fold. But there's a lot of discussions to be had, and you know, those discussions have not been had. The few that have kind of occurred here and there with some key stakeholders, as Aaron was referring to, throw them up in the air and see who really took what from what conversation and where things land. There's a lot of gray area.
Well, I will say Arts Around the Square, I would not characterize the businesses being unsupportive. I disagree with that statement, but I will say that to be shut down or to have limited access to being able to run your business for 3 solid days is difficult. And it's a challenge for businesses. You know, it's a business district. It's not an event venue. But I think that most businesses in the downtown want to be supportive of what's, you know, being presented to the community, and they're willing to lose sales even to allow something like that to happen, because they feel like they're giving back in a certain way. But I think we were talking about like doing a one-day event,
Mhm.
calling it Arts Around the Square. Obviously, we know that it would have to take time to build up or whatever, but I do think that for a one-day event, having a rain day as an alternative as well, I think that we could really pull off something amazing. And it's something that I know that a lot of people really want. And I just guess my feeling is that I want everybody to buy into it and to, if you're gonna be working on it, like to be all in and really show your, I guess, your enthusiasm or whatever about trying to make it the best event that we can. And I personally feel that the reception for the community is going to be great. I think that they're going to love it, but I do know it's a lot of work. Putting on events is a lot of work and it takes a lot of staff time, but I think that there's enough people in Alamance County that really want to see it happen. I mean, when you just mention it to people, they're like, can I help? Is there something that I can do? Even our HR director, Lori Andrews, when I was talking to her about it, a couple of months ago, she's like, I'll be willing to help and volunteer my time. What do you need to have done? Maybe there's arts teachers at the local schools, or there's, people that we can help you. We're not asking to do that as a council. I don't think we want to be a burden to our rec department staff. But we, as council members of the community, we're trying to relay to you kind of like almost in a public survey kind of feedback. This is what people really seem to want. And we hope that you can support that and try to move forward with something that's going to be amazing, that the rec department would get a lot of great kudos and credit for. We want you guys to look good.
And I mean, selfishly, we do too. And that's where I like to hedge bets a little bit, if you will. Have not all eggs in one basket. Have multiple different things going on so we can have a successful event. And I'm not saying that it won't grow into 250 vendors like it was back in the 80s and 90s, but I can look around and see that others doing very similar festivals are not having those numbers. And so hopefully I'm wrong, but again, I want to hedge those bets and have multiple things going on.
And to kind of speak to what Brian's saying, it's a different environment than it was in the 80s or 90s. They didn't have Amazon. You didn't have all the stuff that you have now where people, Etsy and all these things where people don't go out and buy. I mean, I agree. I want to do it 100%, but just once again, I'm playing devil's advocate. It's a different world. I mean, I know from my, I'm a car
We
guy.
still go to Hillsville's flea market
Yeah,
thing that
but-
they have, and they have a lot of arts and
Yeah.
crafts
mean-
and vendors, and they have hundreds.
Yeah, but
I think it can be done.
Yeah, it can be, but I'm just saying, I mean, I'm a car guy and I go to car events. And Charlotte Motor Speedway used to be one of the biggest events on the East Coast. You can go do it in a half a day now. It used to take 3 days. Just because people don't travel, the expense of travel, expense of setting up, expense of buying, event booths. And the reality is that people shop online for a lot of the stuff that they used to shop for.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 100% agree with you. I think it's a great thing. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. It's kind of showing where he's coming from, because some of, a lot of events are getting smaller because of the environment we live in.
And I think going from 3 days to one day and consolidating that kind of like for this one event, the one day I think would both drive the traffic to the event and also hopefully the vendors, that it wouldn't be too much of a time commitment for them or a cost to them. But the other thing that we had talked about is, not just if you have three people selling pottery, 3 different vendors selling pottery, but you've got one of the vendors that are actually like demonstrating their craft, you know, that's usually where the crowd kind of gathers. And to have some kind of like almost performance art being done so that people can like ask questions and learn a lot. That's what I love about the car shows, the car cruise-ins, because so many people come down there to get knowledge from people that restore these old cars, and maybe people have had an interest in doing art, but they didn't really like know anybody that did these kind of mediums, and they get to talk to somebody that does sculpting and talk to somebody that does painting and works with oil paints and things like that. So
Kind of like
Um,
similar to the Yesterday Village or whatever at the State Fair,
right,
where they come in and they weave the hats. And there's
Right.
a guy there painting, there's a guy doing the
yeah.
silhouettes and whatnot.
That's what I kind of envision.
Yeah.
It's more of a celebration of the arts and for people to have an opportunity to really kind of demonstrate what their talents are here. And you just can't go anywhere and be able to see that. I mean, to me, it's almost like, you know, if you, I don't know the economics of this, but I mean, if there's somebody that's really great, like a glass blowing person, I mean, and we do this, you know, with other events that we have, if I really want them, like they don't pay a vendor fee. We, you know, I just have them come, or if I have to pay them as entertainment to do demonstrations, I'm willing to do that. To me, like having them come and kind of present what they have is more important than trying to necessarily like just collect a fee.
I see where you're going. I mean, to have it more of as a artisan event, not a vendor event.
Right. No one's selling like
Right. I mean, the
Tupperware
artisan-
or
yeah.
31 bags or any of that kind of stuff. It's a juried, it's, and nothing wrong with those solicitors, but it's just that what we would be wanting to kind of showcase is people's talent in and their artistic ability to be able to produce some sort of product or, yeah, I think
They could
that,
sell their product,
yeah,
but they would also be the people that made the product, not
Yeah.
bought a bunch of stuff in bulk and come tried to sell it here.
Yeah, we have meetings set up in the very near future, like next week possibly. So I think the conversation with stakeholders is going to happen. We're going to have a better idea of what the capacity is going to be. We're going to make sure council knows. We've already spoken with the mayor about the meeting with her, and if she wants to have another council member present, we can certainly accommodate, 2 council members in the next of those meetings. And then, we can see where we are. So I think I don't necessarily, it's like any of the ideas that are thrown around, I just hate to get too far ahead of what the capacity can possibly be. So, but rest assured, we are going to have those meetings. And we've already spoke with the folks that we think would be stakeholders, and we'll be able to go from there.
Very fair. All of the points that you guys discussed have been discussed. So we're with you in offering variety of arts, not just somebody selling in a 10 by 10 space. So we're with you. I think where we differ is timing and scale. Scale we can grow ideally. Timing, I think that's not dependent upon us to force upon the market. We have to do some research and say, okay, spring is flooded, let's try to look somewhere else. Or here's a window in spring, let's take it. But that's driven by the artists themselves, in my opinion. And if we're going out and for the balloon festival, if you guys couldn't get, I don't even know how many balloonists you had come out, but if you couldn't get, I'll say 25 for lack of knowledge, then you can only get 5, then that's not really a balloon festival. That's just a festival featuring balloons. So, we're trying to walk that tightrope as well.
Me personally, I don't want you to rush it. I want it to be 100% success and
Appreciate that.
well planned prior.
Thank you.
okay. We had talked about you coming back to the council about changing the open space ordinance. And also changing the overlay language for Main Street. And I believe, who was that attorney that was going to give you some suggested language?
Yeah, so Ryan Moffitt was.
Brian,
Yeah, but it was actually gonna be a citizen requested amendment. Since he was the one that was representing the impacted property owner, so we were gonna go that route first, since he was gonna do it. We spoke with him recently. I'm not sure exactly when we're gonna come back with that, but it is still being discussed with him. As far as the open space part goes, we have talked about that internally. We have reached out to the School of Government to kind of get some help in drafting it, because like I said, in I think last meeting, it's a very difficult ordinance to adjust, with the emphasis being on protecting environmentally sensitive areas. So to pull that aspect out, we're trying to come up with some ways to be able to accommodate the use of space without necessarily moving away from what the intent of that whole ordinance was about. So we're still going back and forth on that. Hopefully we have something here in the next coming months. School of Government, they're not necessarily the fastest in responding to stuff, but they do respond. Summer hours, they're not there as much. So, we may have something in the next month or two. Month be great, but maybe 2 months.
I think we just want the intent back then was to allow for smaller lots if the developer was willing to give up buildable space and convert it to open space. And what you see is not that happening. You see them getting smaller lots with existing zoning, and they're not giving up anything. They're taking existing land that you can't build on anyways and calling it open space. And it's like there's no truth in zoning, right? We've basically taken R18 and changed it to a different zoning, and same thing for R12 and same thing for R9. And when you start doing 7,000 square foot lots, it really, in my opinion, that is not responsible development. I just want us the council to be, I want the public to understand and be educated on how that zoning actually affects the look of the development, and hold developers accountable to actually doing what they should be doing, which is giving something up in order to get something. They're getting something, but they're giving up nothing.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that the open space provision is in almost everyone's ordinance. It's a template, and it's based off of the same principle, that you're encouraging development without impacting particular areas. So to try to find one that's creatively written that does that while at the same time accomplishing what you're wanting to see, where it's not just floodplain land only. That's where we're trying to get feedback in how we can craft that and still accomplish what we're trying to do from the onset. So hopefully we'll have some pretty decent language here shortly. We just have to get some help from the School of Government on really where we're trying to go with that. So hope to have something here in the next coming months.
So the last thing that I have is, you had sent me the dissolution of the CLG agreement with Alamance County to do and handle with the Alamance County Historic Commission to be able to handle like the National Registry of Historic Places and the nominations and that sort of stuff. I want to go back and revisit that and reinstate that. I don't know, was there some reason that they decided to
On my tour with Roxburgh during that time.
hiatus? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a complete waste of money. I've sat on both boards, and this is just my opinion. It's a complete waste of money to duplicate services. I mean, you might in 10 years have 2, 3 applications, And in order to get that CLG status, you have to be doing a survey. You have to, like, it's expensive, right? To do those surveys of the historic properties. It's quite expensive. I think the one that they did for the county was over 50,000, maybe even $75,000. So why would we then do that when they can just include Graham in their request? And, you know, I have always found the Alamance County Historic Commission Board to be very unbiased, and, you know, anybody that wants to come to them to do a nomination for landmark status or for anything within the county, I don't see any reason why that board can't handle it. And they're so infrequent. I don't see the purpose. I see not one benefit of duplicating that service only to cost us more money.
I'll reach out to,
Makes no sense.
I'll reach out to the county and see what it'll take to be part of that again. I think they have a new planning director now, if I'm not mistaken. I think, Tanya,
Yeah.
I think she left recently, so I don't know who the new person is, if they've hired anyone in that spot, but, I'll reach out to them tomorrow and see what steps, what steps it would take if they're gonna be able to bring us back on.
So it doesn't take away any of the zoning or any of that stuff and put that in somebody else's hands, but like, say for instance, Oneida Mill wants to come to a board and get approval for recommendation as a historic landmark or as a historic property or whatever to the state, then they can approve that there. To put it in the Historic Commission hands and here, it costs us money, because to be our own certified, your own little legal, have that committee to be its own legal government, basically, you have to do a survey. There's a bunch of things that you have to go through and do checklist for, and it's expensive. I mean, it's not like it's even on there once a month. It's not even on there once a year for those things to even come up. They're so far and few between, it makes no sense to duplicate that service to me. So I didn't know that they had gotten rid of it. That was news to me. And again, doesn't make any sense. If you had a regular request for it or something, or there was something that they weren't doing that we could do better, I could see that, but I don't know of any of that to be true. It just makes no sense to just cost the taxpayers more money. So if you could look into doing that and coming back to the council with a suggestion on that, that would be great. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay.
And I will be leaving on vacation. And
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, say aye.